Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to another webinar series, this one talking about the introduction to Visual BACnet. A couple days ago, yesterday in fact, we looked at common problems. This is going to be an overview of the tool itself and the different components within it. My name is Ryan Houston. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Optical Networks. Tom is hiding on the call. He'll be available for questions and whatnot. He's newly joined us as our sales engineer. If you have any questions during this webinar, please ask them. Ask them in the chat. We will answer them as we go along, and Tom can also answer them at any time. As always, fill out our survey at the end. It allows us to fine-tune these webinars for content and speed of delivery to make sure that you are getting the best use of your time. And the session is being recorded on YouTube. We have our own channel at Optical Networks. There's a lot of other videos in there as well, including different ways of troubleshooting with Visual BACnet and some other topics. It's quite a lot of information in there to learn and leverage. So with Visual BACnet, we created this tool quite a few years ago now and really targeted at BACnet sites specifically. BACnet is the only protocol that we monitor, and we do it in two different ways. One is site monitoring, which is a persistent connection to your site, giving you constant data uploads and constant analysis of the site. And we'll dig a little bit more into that as we move along. The other one is troubleshooting, and this is an ad hoc tool where you grab a capture, do a quick analysis, go and fix your problem, and then move on to the next site. Both are very, very helpful, but they have different applications depending on your customer. Site monitoring itself gives you a site-wide view of all of your different information that's on your site. So you can capture from different locations or different nodes that we call them on your site, and you get to figure out exactly where the problem is in what location. So instead of having a generic view, you can say, actually, this building over here is the one that's causing us all the problems. So let's not respond to these different issues over in another building. We can just deal with it right here and really get focused approach. Because you're constantly monitoring every hour, you now get an hour's worth of granularity. So something that happened over the weekend isn't all that helpful in a 72-hour period, but something that happened on Saturday night at 1 a.m., that does help you. And it allows you to refer back to your BMS, possibly trend logs or your archiver, and see what's in there and see what changed. You will get alerts on variations in the network health. So these are looking at the data and saying, wow, you've got a drop in your network health score. We're going to notify you of that because it either dropped below a threshold or it dropped by a certain percentage. And right away, instead of problems going unnoticed for many lengths of time, you're going to get notified right away, helping you to go diagnose and figure it out. Sometimes you can think of, if I take a capture once a week, was it the right time? What happens on the other part of the week that you're not capturing on? It's going to track some information, but not something very specific. And here we can look at track your trends in network health. So on average, the score you're looking in front of you, it's not a bad score at about 50%, but it's getting dips every now and then. What we really want to see is a nice, even, smooth line that starts to increase up to the right, closer to 100%. And that shows you that the differentiations in the day-to-day network health score is more steady state, and then you are working on the site to get a better trend to make it better and better. Now, the troubleshooting section, you can take captures from any network and you simply analyze it and bring it into this tool to get it fixed. You can drill down into the problems, identify the issue, and fix them. The core attraction of this tool is the fact that we're not just giving you a bunch of data and throwing it out on the screen. We are actually giving you checks with a pass-fail. So you can tell right away within a few minutes of where to focus and actually start correcting the problem. You can use it on many, many different sites. There's folders and organizational tools within Visual BACnet to help you organize all of your files and put them in the right locations. As standard of these, there's what we call a basic report. This is something that you can use on any site and on any file and spit out basically a copy of this screen. There are advanced reports as well that give you a very, very in-depth 30+ page report of every single issue that's a problem within the network. As well, you can share individual files, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So here on this one, what we're looking at is your node organization down on the left-hand side. You can organize it by building, by capture node, and then it shows you the network health score, the min, the max, and the average, as well as the site health down at the bottom. So we can look if we're trending down or trending up, or figuring out which direction we need to go. In here on the left-hand side, you can create this. That's the one under the monitoring side here. You can create this in any way that you wish. So you can start with a geographical area, you can get down into the building, you can get down into the floor, and then you get the capture node. So this is a free for you to modify and to change as necessary. All of the individual health scores roll up into an overall average in the main site. So if you're tracking KPIs or any sort of data like that, then you can make sure that that number is always on the rise. And there's a little arrow beside it saying, is it better than last time or worse? So a quick indicator for you to look at this score compared to this one and your last one. Inside of this, there is only down in the monitoring node are where you accept data. Everything else is organization. So one key thing to note. It's very easy to set up in the procedure, but it is something to take note of. Now over here on the top right, this is where your network health score is. In this particular capture that we took, we've only got one capture, so it's going to be minimum, average, and max are all the same value. But what you're really looking for here is the average should remain the same or start to get higher. The minimum could be a 0%, it could be a 10%, it could be a big hit. So every time you see that, it's a good indication you should go check your site right away. Something else that you should know is if your average and your maximum are at 100%, that's probably a file that's not quite correct. And I would love to see 100% health scores out there, but realistically, that's probably a file with not a lot of data in it. So it's something that you can leverage and take a look at, and it also helps you determine what is going on your site. And the bottom right is your graph. So the graph can be rolled out to a year, you can roll it into a week or a couple days, and you can zoom it in and out to really fine tune where the issue is. Sometimes you're going to go on for weeks and weeks with a steady state, maybe 40, 50, 60%, and nothing changes. And then you're going to get some havoc going on in your site where it dips to 0 or 10% over the course of a couple days. And from here, you can zoom in and take a look at that part specifically to see what's going on, what happened. In terms of the overall screen, you can now click on the individual site node and it will tell you a bunch of information in the screen directly. So where your main site is, a little bit of a network profile of it. We'll go further into that in these files, but there's some more specific data from the capture node directly and not targeted towards the main site. So this screen over here on your right, this one is showing you, this is your name of the monitoring node. It shows you the network profile. Say under this node, we are seeing 140 devices spread across 9 different networks. The average health score is 40%. we're looking at a data rate on average. Say most of this in this file actually is non-BACnet data. There's a percentage is BACnet data. And then you get to see a quick indication of the checks. So out of 29 checks that we have, 6 of them failed in the site, 1 of them's in warning, and 22 have passed. So that's a pretty good indication that we should go take a look at this file and see what's happening. Once you back out, you can roll up that health score and show you an overall average. This one here shows the minimum, the average, and the maximum score that moves up and down according to the different capture nodes that are being collected. You can see here, because there's 2 core sites, and this could be maybe one of your main customer sites and another one of your core customer sites, and you would collect it under your monitoring and create a list all the way along. Or you could even do this building for building. It really depends on the customer's layout. But you can start to see where you need to work on and focus on your score. This one here shows all 3 on average, and then the bottom of showing there's 6 nodes that are contributing to the health score. And me as a savvy troubleshooter, I'm not gonna worry about the score that says 80%. I'm gonna look at one of these 2 down here. These are both 40% on both buildings. Maybe I should look at those first. I'll get to these at some point, but these will be your focus. One of the absolute most critical features that we've added, and this was added, I believe, within the last 6 months, is something that we call a device browser. Now, this is a device list, and it's dynamically updated within this tool. So because we're constantly monitoring all of these BACnet nodes, or these capture nodes on your BACnet system, we start collecting different pieces of information. So as an example, in this site, from all the different capture nodes that we have, there's almost 14,000 BACnet devices that are active. And you can see the total amount of devices that we've discovered at 14,195. There's a breakdown on how many are active, how many are inactive, how many are dormant, and how many I've never seen. And I believe there's a breakdown of those coming up. Inside of that, it shows you more information, some quick filters, and then it adds a device breakdown of all the information that we have. So up here, out of that 14,195 devices, 13,399 are active. That means they've been talking to us within a 24-hour period. Anything that hasn't spoken in more than 24 hours, we move to inactive. This means that although the device may be online, it just hasn't talked to us within 24 hours. Not very common in a BACnet setting. Normally some device talks and says something within that period. So it's either we're not getting some of the requests, or there's some changes going on that we're not quite, that haven't been updated. Dormant, thank goodness there's none in this site, but dormant means we haven't seen the device in a week. And then never seen as a function of importing a CSV file. So when you're doing your project job and you have a whole list of devices that you're going to add to the system, we can pre-populate this list, and then as they talk, then they will get updated to a different status. Any ones that's never talked at all from the upload now turns into never seen. So it's possible that you're still in construction and you just haven't added the device physically yet. And that's what that's for. This part is a full list of all your devices. It's pageable and searchable, and you can find any type of information in here that you need. So you can filter by who's online, who's offline, who's unapproved, different things like that. If you know that every device on your network is okay, then you can approve all. But looking down here, a BACnet ID of 1 probably is a device that you should go check on, because that's not very common. Either that's a front-end system or something that was incorrectly configured. To be honest, any device less than 1,000 really falls into that category. And this is a quick way that you can check. But it shows you status, is it approved or denied? Or is it online, I should say? Have you approved or denied it? What's the BACnet ID? Very, very handy if you're adding a brand new device and you want to make sure you don't have a duplicate device ID. You can simply search for the one that you're looking for, see if it shows up. If it does, don't add it. Shows you the type, is it a router? Is it a BBMD? Shows you the original BACnet address and any IP address and MAC that's associated with the device. Very powerful. And again, this is dynamically updated. So as we get more information from different packets, this list will be updated. There's another field over here on the right that says the last time that this information was updated. Looking at your standard view, so this is a troubleshooting view. This is going through your system. These are all of your different folders and files that you would upload. This is from a troubleshooting perspective. So you would just upload your file, it drops it into this location, and it would be up to you to set up the proper organization. You can see by this cluster of mess that we have not yet set up the organization without this. This actually looks very similar to my screenshot. And but it is capable of setting everything up and making it nice and clean. Once you upload one of those files in that location, you can simply click on it and get directly into the data. So here you've got a quick overview of what's going on. You've got a health score, you've got the checks that have passed or failed. We'll break into this one by one. This one here is your network health score. 1 second here. Okay. The network health score tells you everything. This is what the entire file is based on. 32% critical. So this is based on 100% health score. From here, you can tell if you need to dig into the file a little bit more or what the status is, run it against your KPI targets, whatever else you need to do. But the whole entire premise of Visual BACnet is based on the network health score. This gives you an actual real-time status of what's happening in your network. If you don't have this, you're just going to assume your network's perfect. But this is telling you something different. When we look at, so you can click on that button directly and it takes you into the specific checks that have passed or failed. Inside of here, we've got a whole bunch of different, what we call critical checks. These start right from the top: circular networks, duplicate device ID. We covered a few of these yesterday. They are simply a pass-fail. So we can look at unresponsive devices, missing acknowledgements, and you can focus your search based on one of these. Whichever one has failed and whichever one's in warning, you can click on these and be able to start troubleshooting your site very, very quickly. Going through the main summary page, you can see the top in blue. This starts us with, this is the name of your file. It shows us a start and then a start time and how long the capture was. The duration is key. If you don't get a capture file that's at least a half hour long, you may miss details. You see lots of captures that are 45 or 50 seconds. That's not going to be enough. So do yourself a favor. If you're already going to pay for the cost of an upload credit, make it worth your while. Get an hour or two of capture so we get the most data possible. There's a summary screen of the data information within the packet, and that's in the top left. That shows you how much data is in the file. So the file is only 10 megs large. There's 500,000 packets in it, and most of that data is actually MSTP. But it shows you a quick status. Something to note, looking at the amount of packets is always key. A lot of times this could be 1 million or a couple million packets. And sometimes if the file size isn't big enough to accommodate that, then some of the data may be empty. So this is a good indication of what can happen in the file. As another example, say you took an hour-long capture, but this file's only 10,000 packets, something's not right, it's too small. This one here is a statistics summary. It's showing how many networks, so this is things like a MSTP to IP router or different subnets, and it shows you how many devices you're looking at. So if you're doing a capture and you know you've got 50 devices on there, yet we're only showing 10, it's probably captured in the wrong spot. So a very, very quick way of determining or kind of double checking some of the work that you're doing. We also show how much of a burst we're getting, how much MSTP burst there is, how much trend log data there is, and BBMD traffic. Not all of this is relevant to every single application, but it is here for your reference. This one here is more of a gut check, but this, you can take a look and see how much data is being thrown out throughout your network. This one here, this is an average of 200 packets per second within this network. That's a pretty intense network. That's probably a little high, and it's getting traffic spikes upwards of 400 packets per second. It's a pretty clear indication of why this health score is only at 32%. But this graph really does help you fine tune and look at the data spikes. A lot of cases, there'll be a steady state of packets per second and then a huge spike. Normally coincides with some event that you've seen under your BMS system. Definitely a handy graph to have. You can also click on either BACnet IP or MSTP and it'll focus the graph on those areas. The report section are where you can get all of your data. Now, the basic report we covered briefly. The basic report is available in both troubleshooting and monitoring subscriptions at no cost. However, an additional feature within monitoring is that all the advanced reports are included. So there's no additional cost to purchase those reports. Another handy feature for the monitoring product. Over here on the right, these are the quick check of the diagnostic checks. So I'm seeing a lot of red. That's a lot of things that aren't right. But we have organized this list in order of criticality. So starting at the top, your circular networks, and working your way down. So if I was going to go do this network and troubleshoot it, I wouldn't start with maybe the one at the bottom. I would start right away with the duplicate device ID. Number one, it's a pretty easy one to solve and get out of the way. And number two, it can cause some control issues by two devices having the exact same ID. And then from there, you start working on your routers, get them online, get them functioning, and typically your unresponsive devices will then disappear. Once you have a router to that network, you see your devices again, everything comes back online. Pretty handy to get in here and check and see what's happening. On the left-hand side, we've created some different menus to make things a little bit simpler. So this is your summary screen that we've just gone over. There's a BACnet browser. This is showing you a lot. It's basically Wireshark filters on steroids. It's a very, very simple yet powerful filtering tool to get further into the data in the way that you want to view it. We've got the device browser. This is very similar to the one that's in the monitoring solution, but it's more simplified and it's specific to this file. The one that's on monitoring is a continual update of all the files feeding in information. And then from there, we've got 4 different automatically filtered graphs for you. So if you want to look at response times, you can just click on that and see how long it's taking your data to get from one spot to another. So those are pretty handy and at your fingertips. One of the biggest features, and I encourage all of you to use it, you'll notice here that only this little box down here lit up in a different color, harder to see. On the bottom right on visualbacnet.com, there's a chat feature. This chat comes to quite a few of us within the office, and we're always ready to man it and help you with your issues. So instead of writing an email to support or trying to dig out one of our emails to try and find us, simply click on the chat. If you do it now, Tom's in the background, he'll be willing to answer your questions. But right away, when you're viewing a file and looking at data and wondering to ask a question or struggling a little bit, please don't hesitate. Hit that chat, we will help you through it. I'd rather you not struggle. You know, we can help you learn the tool a little bit, find something new, and get your problem solved and get you onto the next site as fast as possible. Very powerful feature. Please don't hesitate to use it. Now, a neat little feature as well is the notes option. So say you take a capture and there's more than a couple techs working on it. Well, you can both put in notes here and say, okay, I looked at this file, I solved the duplicate device ID, but I'm not going to go get a new file quite yet. Let's keep working on this file and working our way through it. So this is where you can add notes and say, I solved the duplicate device ID. Now I'm working on the unresponsive routers. The other tech goes, I'm also working on the rejected networks. And with that, you've got some conversation in here. Additionally, you could use this as maintenance. So you could say, well, I know why there's no responsive routers. It's because they're being replaced or they're being obsoleted and we're doing an upgrade. So we can put that right in the notes. And these notes are also available within the reports. So you can look at all the history of the work being done. One of the kind of a neat feature here is file sharing. So if you go back to your main screen under your troubleshooting account, you can simply click on one of the files. There's some options in here that you can do. So you can name the file, you can view the file, you can look at some data, but you can also share your file. So share by email. A neat idea here is to take the file that you've got from a customer's site, and a lot of times, depending on what kind of customer you have, they may want to look at the information as well. Or you can share it with your customer, you can share it with someone else in your office, you can share it with us, you can share it with the manufacturer of the BACnet product that's causing you headaches. This is because the credit upload has already been spent. People can look at this file, you can view it as much as you want, and that's what the file sharing does. It allows you to share your results with other people. Very powerful tool. You control the share by email or remove it. You'll have a list of people you shared it with. And it's a way to share the data, share this experience with other people. Maybe they want to help you. Maybe you send it to one of the top tech at one of the BACnet manufacturers, and then they start working on it as well. And that is the end of the presentation. Do we have any questions out there? I'm just taking a look at the questions now, so give me a quick second here.
Perfect, chat. Thomas here. I believe, Brian, we just have a question on how the health score is calculated itself. So the circular we're seeing in the center, how it is calculated.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me dig into a slide here. So this right here, there's a little wrench. Inside of here, there is, that's how the network health score is calculated. Now, right away, we look at different points. So an example, the detected circular networks, that will reduce 40% of any file immediately. And from there, we start looking at different percentages. So every single file starts at 100%, and then it gets decremented as these checks fail. The score checks at the bottom are a combination of a percentage and a score check out of the what we call the severity from a scale of 0 to 100, and then we do a combined breakdown. So if you go into Visual BACnet tool, you'll be able to see how each of the scores are broken down. Furthering that, you can enable or disable some of the specific checks. So one of the So sometimes you can say, well, I'm not worried about circular network, so I can just turn that check off and then we won't include it. The biggest power of this tool, of Visual BACnet itself, is if you run this site, if you run this tool, your competitor runs the tool, the manufacturer runs the tool on the same site, you will all get the same health score. So it really allows you to use the tool as an independent third-party check of your BACnet site. So there's no way someone can say, wow, that's specific to that vendor, or specific to vendor A, or specific to vendor B. It's, you can do your own research and you can do your own analysis, but it always comes out to the same result. And that is the power of Visual BACnet. So please, I encourage you, take a look at the tool. We're here to help. We like BACnet. BACnet's a great protocol. It does come with its issues, and we are here to help you solve them. Get off your jobs and move forward. Thank you for your time today.